When you go to Oaxaca, you are going to come back with this flavor burnt into your head of this particular chili, this one that's called Chile Pasilla Oaxaqueño or Chile Mije. Mije referring to the location and the group of people that live in the Sierra Norte in the northern part of Oaxaca that specialize in growing this particular chili. Now, when you're in Oaxaca, they will tell you that that's the only place you can ever get it. But if you just go to the next state up, to Puebla, they call this chile navideño there, and it seems to me that it's almost exactly the same chili. But what's the flavor like? Well, if you like chipotle, it's that sort of sweet, spicy, smoky flavor, this is even better. So this is those same kinds of descriptors, has the same descriptors, but everything is just more integrated. I just absolutely love this. So I'm going to show you when you go to Oaxaca what kind of salsa that they will make out of it. And it's very typical to start the making of this salsa, well, by just pulling off the stem of this chili. You'll smell it and it'll smell like the best Thanksgiving ham you ever smelled in your entire life. It should be supple like this, not at all sort of crispy or hard, because when they dry out a lot, they lose a lot of flavor. Then put it into some hot tap water and soak it for about 20 minutes. I've already got that going here. We're going to make salsa with roasted tomatillos, so of course you're going to want to take those out of the little papery husks that they come into. And then I'm going to show you my really fast way to roast them, because if you're making a Oaxacan Pasilla Salsa, you're going to want to roast these. You're not going to boil them because they don't do that in Oaxaca. But what I do is to cut these guys across what I call the equator. That will kind of help you to understand what we're going for here. So you would cut them across this way, and then put them into a non-stick skillet that is heated over kind of a medium to medium high heat. I've got this one already hot so you can hear the sizzle when they just go in here. Cut the other two and lay those into the skillet as well. Now, what I'm doing here in Oaxaca, they would laugh at me for doing this because they're never in as much of a hurry as we are here in the United States. But they would just put them out on their griddle, on their comal, and they would turn them until they were roasted. Of course, after they had taken the papery husks off of them. Now, we want to roast garlic alongside that. So I have some whole pieces of garlic. I'm going to just gently mash them here to get the papery skins off of those guys. And then I'm going to throw them into the skillet. Now, if your garlic is really large, then you're probably going to need to cut it in half in order for it to roast along the same time frame as those tomatillos will. So when I do my roasting under a broiler, I always tell you it's about 6 minutes per side on those tomatillos. In this particular situation, it will only be about 3 minutes or so per side. So everything goes really fast. I'm going to slice these guys into slightly smaller pieces, and then put them, this one looks like it will do just fine in its entirety there. Okay, so we're going to look at these guys, and as they start, let's just take a look at one of these right now and see what it looks like. Just after a couple of minutes, you can see that it's starting to brown a little bit. We can turn them over now. What we were looking for is that browned, but on both sides, and we want to make sure that the tomatillos are completely cooked through. When they're completely cooked through, they won't have any of this lime green color left. They will have turned to an olive green color. That's just natural. If you're wondering why I'm doing this in a non-stick skillet, it's simply because the cleanup is way easier. If I'm using a non-stick, a regular skillet, then I just put a little piece of foil down there. I'll show you this when it is ready. These are all soft now, and it's very important that the garlic, it'll get a little browned on the outside, but you want it to be soft. Of course, these we want to be soft as well. And now they're close to room temperature, and I want them to be cool enough so that they're not, I'm going to use one of these to get them out of here. They won't have a lot of juice around them in this method of roasting the tomatillos and the garlic, but it is easy cleanup with that particular pan. These are soft now. They're much softer than when I put them in there, and I'm just going to tear them into some smaller pieces. That'll just aid in the making of the salsa. These are kind of a medium spicy salsa. Sometimes you'll get them that'll be really hot, but most of them, I would call them a kind of medium salsa. I'm going to put about a third of a cup or so of that water in there, but we are going to adjust that as we go along here because we got to get the right consistency of it, and then make a fairly smooth puree out of this. Now, let's look at, I think I got about the right consistency. This is always done in the traditional Mexican consistency, which is always softer, a little bit looser than what most of us think of in the United States as salsa. It's a little spicier, and so you just drizzle it on things. Look at that gorgeous color. It's a sort of a rusty red, and I can smell the smokiness of it. Stir in some salt. I think that's about the right amount, but I want to give it a taste and see where we are. It's so delicious. It's if you are concerned about heat, you might want to just use one of those chilies. And if you're concerned about getting those chilies, just know that you can find them online. It's really a wonderful world that we live in, that we can have this real, true taste of Oaxaca. Now, this is a great salsa to put on a steak taco. It's like spectacular on a steak taco. But I like to make these little tostadas that I have had so many times in Oaxaca. Oaxacan friends always put these out as little snacks to go with mezcal. And they're just like a marinated queso fresco with this on top. Oh my God, they are so delicious. You'll have fun experimenting with uses for your Oaxacan Pasilla Salsa. Oaxaca is really famous for its queso fresco, fresh cheese. We can't necessarily always get that quality here, but we can get some really nice queso fresco that's made in the United States. The one that I'm kind of obsessed with right now is this one that comes from La Chona. And it says tradicional on it. So it's a fresco cheese tradicional. And what I like about it is the loose texture. Sometimes when you taste some of the queso frescos that you find in the United States, they will be a sort of dense texture. Easy for crumbling, which is what you do with most queso fresco, but it's not necessarily the best for this kind of a tostada, because we're actually going to cube this queso fresco. You can see that it crumbles really easy, which is great for certain dishes in the Mexican repertoire. But basically what I'm going to do here is to cube this and then give it some flavorings. Now, in Oaxaca, they love their oregano. They have a different kind of oregano than a lot of places in Mexico. So we'll take these cubes. They may look dense to you, but they're actually quite light in texture. And we're going to put some olive oil on it. This is sort of a marinade to go on here. And then some Mexican oregano. I don't have the Oaxacan kind, so I'm using the classic Mexican oregano here. About a teaspoon will crumble over the top of this. And then I like this with a lot of black pepper. So I got my pepper grinder here. That is that when I need a lot, this produces a lot of black pepper quickly. So I'll do that. I'm looking for about a half a teaspoon of it here. That looks like that's going to be about that amount. And it's nice if you're going to measure something to do it just like that. So then we just have to mix this together. We've got Oaxacan Pasilla Salsa. Now, if you don't have Oaxacan Pasilla Salsa on hand to make this taste truly authentic, you could use just simply a chipotle salsa made with tomatillos and roasted garlic. I've shown that many times in my span of time on both YouTube and on public television. And I'm going to pile on top of these tostadas some of this marinated queso fresco. If you really want to go all out, let this spin in 45 minutes or an hour or so together, that cheese with the flavorings, and you'll have an even more dynamic mixture. Just look at that. And then I've got the salsa to go over the top of it. Just drizzle it on. And of course, I like fresh things, so I'm going to put a little bit of fresh cilantro leaves on top of it here, just tearing some of them off of the top like this and just letting them sort of fall down over these tostadas. Absolutely fast to make, absolutely delicious to eat. I hope you enjoy making these marinated queso fresco tostadas with the Oaxacan Pasilla Salsa.